In 1987, Argento caused terror at the opera. After an accident, a young actress becomes the lead in a Macbeth production. From then, she is pursued by someone who kills several of her acquaintances and forces her tied up to watch each murder. The commercially successful slasher giallo got reasonable reviews, which in my opinion let him get away with a bit too much. This awful boring slug with heavy metal music which chokes off the orchestral score in the most inappropriate occasions gets its suspense exclusively from the absurdly crazy behavior of its actors, of whom after 2 hours of opera torture not one comes even close to a real character, but still worked with phenomena thanks to a more interesting story and better fitting cast. Looks here forced and tired. The unmotivated characters come off thanks to stupid as hell, completely illogical behavior, even unsympathetic at some point, and therefore the viewer doesn't care for them. In 1990, Two Evil Eyes risked a look. The anthology film is based on stories by Edgar Allan Poe and is one of the 2 movies Argento made in the US. In the first story, directed by George A. Romero, a wealthy, seriously ill, bedridden old man is tricked by his doctor, aka lover of his young wife, to write checks under hypnosis. When he dies during the procedure, he comes back as a zombie, of course. The second story, this time by Argento, is about a crime scene photographer who, for some reason, kills black cats. Also for reasons his girlfriend brings black cats into his home and tries to protect them. For reasons the two argue about it, and out of the blue the man kills the woman. He unsuccessfully tries to cover up his crime, which leads to more victims, of course. Both stories are illogical, uninteresting and boring. In Romero's creepshow rehash, in the first 2/3 practically nothing happens at all, and it ends with predictable zombie schlock. Argento's cat video, however, can, thanks to a faster pace, more gore scenes and unintentional comedy, at least earn a few trash entertainment points.
So many things we have. Why don't you stay with me tonight? I'm trying to discover you. Together again for all the night. There's something going on right now. Feeling happy, feel the mood. Let's get closer, baby.
1993, Trauma aka Aura, also shot in the US, came with Argento's daughter Asia in the lead. A young man tries to help a teenage girl which escaped from an hospital after seeing her parents murdered by a serial killer. They try to find the killer before he finds them. The confusing wannabe psycho thriller with gore inserts once again came with critics, from my point of view, too easy from the hook. The story, which they completely pulled out of their ass, serves only as an excuse to put Argento's moderately talented offspring into the limelight. She's so boring that he even has to name her Aura, another word for the thing she lacks completely: charisma. The result is a constructed story with non-characters like in Twilight, in which nobody behaves normal or comprehensible and everything revolves around the oh so important teenager brat. Cut off heads apparently suffer from the ex-mortem talking heads disease. And the soundtrack was obviously recorded for a completely different movie. Even though nothing happens in the picture, the music swells like you are watching some epic scenes when it's not trying to drown out the actor's childish dialogues. In 1996, the Stendhal syndrome spreads on the big screen, a suffering that can lead to blackout and amnesia through sensory overload. It's the first Italian film with CGI effects. Great. Again with Dario Argento in the lead. Of course. She plays a cop who gets a hint where a serial rapist aka murderer can be found in a museum. So of course she tells nobody and goes there on her own, just to black out thanks to the title-giving illness by looking at the pictures and become another victim of the killer, who of course keeps her alive because she is something special, namely related to the director aka Underworld Syndrome or Resident Evil Syndrome. The commercially successful flick received mixed to negative reviews. From my point of view, a complete failure and Argento's most unpleasant movie, mostly because of the for him unusual excessive rape scenes. First of all, there is the total miscast in both leads, with Asia the most unbelievable police commissioner ever and wannabe actor Kretschmann as the killer, who should, like other talentless German exports, avoid speaking roles at all costs. Then a moronic story which was once again 100% constructed around the completely ridiculously acting lead. You don't buy for a second with her tanty body and baby face, her tough commissioner. Just as believable as the Game of Thrones Dragon Queen, what's her name, trying to portray Sarah Connor in Term Vibrator 5 Janice shit. In 1998, the Phantom of the Opera makes Terror in the Opera looks like Amadeus. And again, all-round non-talent, Dario Argento in the lead. What a twist. Baby Phantom gets in a wicker basket abandoned in the river, like with Moses, and then saved in the caves under the Paris Opera House by rats, like the penguins in Batman Returns. They raise him and he becomes their leader, just like Tarzan. And something with a supernatural pact and sometimes superpowers like mental control or influence on the room temperature. See also lazy writing the movie. The Phantom of course doesn't wear a mask and looks like a model. It always hangs around with Christine, which career gets a boost through threats and kills from her phantom friend with benefits. Although this garbage has the nerve to adorn itself in the opening credits with the classic novel by Gaston Leroux, this couldn't save it from the wrath of the critics, and it is quite rightly regarded as one of the most unimaginative, worst implementations of this story. As a fan of the original and also of some newer interpretations, I have just one question. Why the hell has the Phantom to hide when it looks quite normal after all? Also in the templates it possesses one or more genius, often music-related talents, like being a master with an instrument or like with Susan Kay, the Phantom, my personal favorite, an angel voice, and so on. So it is usually able to seduce Christine besides its looks. Here it plays the organ, but of course super duper Dario Argento, you can call me Mary Sue, Christine scene can play it too. So no exclusive fucking reason for this relationship, besides of the fucking. Apparently the expectations of the audience should be subverted, which is always a great idea as we know. I won't go into it any further because I react a little bit sensitive to such disrespectful and ignorant exploitation of my favorite novels and quickly lose my sense of humor, which is desperately needed if I want to stay sane and survive this Argento get-on. In 2001, Sleepless keeps the audience more or less awake. After 17 years, in Turin murders happen again, seemingly by a suspected dead midget. This causes the former investigator to take a break from retirement and start with the son of a victim his own investigation, with practical memory gaps, also known in script circles as Argentotitis. The very well cast modern times giallo reminds with his optics at Argento's best early movies, and is also fast-paced and quite entertaining. The return of Goblin in the score and the non-presence of daughter Asia come off like a pleasant regeneration bath. Still, he doesn't set any new accents and fights like his predecessors, with a story this time a bit less stupid than usual, but with even clumsier / non-logical acting characters.
So many things we have. Why don't you stay with me tonight? I'm trying to discover you. Together again for all the night. There's something going on right now. Feeling happy, let's get closer, baby. Plus we dance and dance. All my friends are talking to me.
In 2004, the card player plays a deadly boring poker game with the audience. A serial killer plays online poker with the Roman police. On stake the lives of women he has abducted. A female cop joins forces with a British colleague to stop the killer. The movie was quite rightly neither a success in the cinema nor with critics. The lead should have been played by his daughter Asia, who was indispensable thanks to her Hollywood career and own directing projects. Despite this good poker hand in the cast, Argento doesn't even come up with a lousy twin. The result was only a lame, tame thriller on TV level, whose online poker plot looks as if it had been invented by a child who had just heard something about this new thing called internets. Two other Argento children play supporting roles, but are as forgettable as the rest of the cast of this cheap-looking bore fest. I am already forgetting while I'm speaking.